Welcome to my August reading wrap up. I forgot to do all of my stats, so actually give me 1 second. This month I read a total of, or last month, I read a total of 14 books, which I think is the most I've read so far this year in like a month. I've read 8 romances, 4 mystery, and 2 fiction. There's one book in here that I have no idea what genre it is. Google's telling me it's fiction, and then YA mystery that I just don't really know. It's kind of a mix of a few genres, but those are the stats that I have. I don't have any DNFs this month. I do have one that's kind of rated low that I low-key wish that I DNF'd because I don't really remember much from it, but we're gonna get right into it. So the first book I read in the month of August was Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This book is a romance novel about our 2 main characters that go through similar struggles. They meet first chapter at a Halloween party, they spend the night together, and then a few weeks later she finds out she is pregnant. Indeed, they're essentially 2 strangers. They do have mutual friends and are in mutual kind of groups, but they don't know anything about each other, so now they have to navigate this together. And that is one of my favorite parts of the book, is the communication and the trust that they have to find within each other. I ended up giving this one, I think at first was a 4.5, but I lowered it just a tiny teensy bit to a 4.25, which not a huge change at all, just like as I've been reading other books throughout the month. So I absolutely loved our main characters. You had the humor in rom-com, you had joking with each other and lots of lightheartedness in different situations, especially being in such a life-altering one, but there was also so much depth and so much real life situations and stuff that they had to go through and navigate with each other. Again, being complete strangers and having to put each trust in each other and not having your expectations too high, but then they're met and you're just blown away. And I feel like these 2 characters were completely meant for each other. I think that Beau, who's our male main character, is just such a sweet, calm, golden retriever, nerdy, such a sweet, kind man, and I love reading about that. I love seeing that type of man shown in a book. And then we have Win, our female main character. She is just so strong of a character, especially having something that's going to change your life and kind of just alter so much that's going on with your life, and she throws her trust into someone and also into herself and kind of standing her ground and knowing what she wants. It was just such a wonderful story to read about. Then also you have the romance between them that was just so good. I feel like Beau was such like a safe spot for her and made her feel strong and like know herself, especially past stuff that she's been through. He was really like reassuring for her. So I really enjoyed this one. I think this writing style was so fast paced. I was like obsessed with it. Lots and lots of dialogue, which is really nice. And yeah, 4.25, really good way to start off the month. Then I read X-Files by Jessica Joyce. This is my first book by this author and I gave it 5 stars. At first it wasn't a complete 5-star, but the more I sat on this book I haven't stopped thinking about it, and I think it was just the right book at the right time. This isn't one that I would scream out and need everyone to read. I think this is just one that if you kind of relate to characters or the storyline, you just like the story and the writing and like all of that makes you feel, it'll definitely be a 5-star, and that's what it kind of did for me. But this is a summary type of romance. It's about our 2 characters who met when they were younger, and they met through a mutual best friend. So our main character Georgia was best friends with this one kid, and then Eli comes into the picture, and now they have kind of like a trio best friend group going on in high school, and then they go off to college, but Georgia and Eli go together off and they move in together in New York. It's a very pivotal moment in their life, you know, things are changing. They end up breaking up. You don't know why they break up, but they go their separate ways and they don't really talk about it. They're trying to keep their friend group together. That's a really huge factor in Georgia's life, is being needed by her friends, and her struggles internally within her friendships and personal life is just something that was very relatable, and I loved the way it was portrayed. But then their 3rd best friend that kind of is the glue to this friendship now is getting married, and they're best man, best woman, and they're on the task to make this the perfect wedding because everything is going wrong. But what I loved so much, like I said, is I connected a lot to Georgia. I feel like all of like the internal things that she was like overthinking, going through in like life changes and just personally, I really related to, and I really enjoyed seeing it portrayed into a character. I really loved the writing style. It was just so emotional at the right moments, but also had like the rom-comminess of it, but then again it had the emotional moments that I look for in a lot of my favorite romances. And then Eli was just such a great character. I feel like at first I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna love him, but like as it went on and it got more romantic and you kind of get more pieces of their past that come to light and you see how much they still care for each other and the tension that's still there, I just like was eating it up. And again, it's one of those books where it's like right book, right time. It was perfect for me personally, and I ended up really enjoying it. There's so many songs that I was listening to while I was reading this book that just kind of hit really hard, and then after I finished I was just like driving in my car listening to the playlist of this book, and I was like, every song was just hitting harder and harder. I'm like tearing up about like thinking about this book, and I was like, you know what, no, this is a 5-star. I love this book. I can see myself rereading it, annotating it a bit, and going back into it and knowing what I know now after finishing it. I think I just really love also a second chance romance. It's having 2 characters that felt so deeply for each other at a point and they broke up for one reason or another, and like them coming back together, and like those feelings are always so strong and still there. It's like, you know, they can make it work and they can make it through this. So I really like seeing the journey of that. There was just like a lot of longing and again a lot of tension. I also think this kind of happy place coded. I don't want to say that too confidently because I know a lot of people love Happy Place and that's one of my favorite books ever, but just some of like the friendship things and the friendship themes that go on in here, and also the second chance in the romance. I don't know. I just think a little bit of it was reminding me of Happy Place. Then I ended up reading another book on my Kindle. This one's called Things Don't Break on Their Own. I keep forgetting, honestly, that I read this book. I don't really remember much about what happened within this book. This is a mystery novel. I feel like it's kind of bending a little bit towards like general fiction mixed with mystery. It kind of follows both genres. I don't think the mystery was huge, which I thought it was going to be, because it's about the sister who is the main character's younger sister ends up going missing years in the past, and you don't know what happened to her. No one was really fighting to find out what happened, which was very interesting. She always was wondering where her sister went, and like you're kind of putting pieces together, but it's not like the biggest point of the book. I feel like the main point of the book that we were following is this main character present day years later, and her relationship with another main character that you get the point of view of, and like their relationship back in the day, and like growing between this, and then when her sister went missing, and like what happened between them, and then present day they haven't seen each other. It's very interesting dynamic between characters in this book, but I feel like the mystery wasn't the main point, and that's kind of where it lacked for me, because I was interested. Where's the sister? Hey, where'd the sister go? What happened to her? No one knows. I just, yeah, don't have too many thoughts on this. I didn't really love it. I wouldn't personally recommend it. It's not my favorite type of mystery. And also, if you do read this, I would look up trigger warnings. There's a bit of like, actually, I don't want to give it away, but I would look up trigger warnings if you were to read this one. And then another book on my Kindle, I read Between Friends and Lovers. This was my first book by this author, and I really, really enjoyed this. I first read the sample on my Kindle, and I just sat there for the 20-30 minutes, and I was like, no, like I need to buy this right now. I need to start reading this. I was so hooked and invested right in the beginning. This one follows our main character. I believe her name is Jo. I keep forgetting the names of the characters in these books. She's a doctor, but she's also an influencer where she shares kind of like tips and helping people within that like kind of field and giving advice in that way, and she has a pretty big platform on there. But she also has a very best friend who's an actor, and he has a very, very rich, very well-known family, and she's always had like feelings for him. It's never been really reciprocated. He's gone through different like girlfriends throughout the years. They've been best friends, and they have like a really strong connection. She's very close to his mom. They're very close like family-wise. This other character comes in, and he is an author. So in the beginning, you're thinking it's gonna be this like love triangle going on. You know, she has these feelings for her best friend that are just not reciprocated, and you have this other character come in who's kind of like shy, a little bit unsure, and not like the confident character I feel like you're used to in a male main character. So I wasn't really sure which direction this book was gonna go in, and I don't usually love love triangles, but I don't think that was the point of this book. I think it was just focusing on our main character Jo and like what she's going through and her growing as a character and realizing like her worth and how strong she is, and she realized it through that other guy that I completely forgot his name, but I really enjoyed his character. His name was Mal. He showed up every single time, like everything that Jo went through, and she goes through a lot in this book, especially like closer towards the end. He shows up every time. He knows what he wants, and his confidence just ends up being shown so well. It was great to see. I ended up giving this one 4.25 stars. I think the writing was so good. It felt very realistic. It also went from like kind of love triangle-y rom-com, not rom-com-y, but like that vibe into like a really deep story, and I really, really enjoyed the way that it went. It did not go in the direction I thought it was, like I said. And I also really liked the way the social media was portrayed in here. I feel like sometimes it can get a little bit cringy reading about like modern day things, especially social media, into a book, but the way that it was portrayed in our main character, who's very big on the platform but also has a whole other job, and like the struggles that she goes within that, I really enjoyed it like a lot. Then I read The Story Life of AJ Ficker by, I keep wanting to call the author AJ Ficker, by Gabrielle Zevin. This one is a short little novel. I didn't really have too many expectations going into this, other than I thought I was gonna really love this because I've seen so many people like absolutely like love this book. All I knew was that AJ Ficker owned a bookshop, and that's kind of it. But it's a very heartwarming story. I gave this one 4 stars. It's about AJ Ficker, who does own the bookshop in a very small town, and he's very negative. He's had stuff that he's gone through, and he's still deep in that hole, and he's not really coming out of it. He's not really helping this bookshop that's kind of sinking. But he has this collection of Edgar Allan Poe poems that are very like exclusive, and he could sell them for a lot of money, but it gets stolen one day. So that kind of just changes the course of like everything for the future for him. Something shows up at his doorstep, and ever since that has shown up, his life has just changed for the better, and you kind of just slowly, gradually see him come out of his hole. And it's just a very heartwarming story. The things that he ends up seeing, and like the positivity he gets into his life, especially with like the side characters around him, his bookshop. I didn't end up connecting to any of the characters, but I do think the storytelling in this was done really, really well. Like the way you don't think much is really happening, but then little pieces get thrown back in. It's just, I love the storytelling of it and the writing style. It's short and sweet and cozy and cute and heartwarming, and it's also a movie, which I did start but didn't finish. Then I randomly picked this one up, Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. I didn't know what I was in the mood for, and I picked this up for my TBR cart. I started reading it, and then I just sat there and read like 100 pages, and I was like, okay, this is actually eating so hard. I'm like kind of obsessed with this. This is about 2 best friends that live in a very small southern town. One night, Lucy, our main character, is found wandering the streets with blood all over her, and Savvy, her best friend, ends up dead. Everyone in the town thinks that she's a murderer. That's kind of case closed how it comes to be, but they don't have specific details on the case because because Lucy does not have any memory of what happened. It kind of is all blacked out, so they can't really pin it on her. They don't know the exact things of what happened. And Lucy has left her town. She lives in LA. It doesn't really come back up. There is a true crime podcaster who comes back to town, like her small town, and that kind of forces her back into the light. Things unravel throughout the podcast. This reminds me a lot of None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell because of the podcast element, and I love that so much. It was like such an interesting way to tell the tale and tell the story through like the townspeople's point of views, and like seeing all these like webs like weaving. It was so interesting because you have Lucy, our main character, who like literally cannot remember anything but is being asked these questions, and we're getting pieces of the story from everyone else's point of view who wasn't even there, and we're in Lucy's point of view trying to figure it out kind of along with her while she's remembering little pieces. And just putting it all together was so fun. The podcast element of this was my favorite part. I ended up giving this one a 3-star. I loved the writing style. It had me on the edge of my seat. It has like the plot twisty stuff that you like. I just really was obsessed with this, and it was kind of unexpected. I think that's why I liked it so much, because I just randomly picked this one up. I didn't even know I was in the mood for this kind of book until I started reading it, and I really enjoyed this one. Then I read Jennifer Lynn Barnes' new release, The Grandest Game. This one is a spin-off from the Inheritance Games original trilogy. It's mainly about our main character from there, Avery Graham. She's hosting this huge game. She's selecting, giving out invitations, and also randomly selecting people to join her grandest game, and you can win a lot of money by the end of it, and you're kind of following different riddles and stuff to win the game, kind of like how the grandfather left the inheritance through riddles in the Inheritance Games trilogy. So you don't have to read the original trilogy to read this. It doesn't really follow like the Inheritance Games does. It's just a known fact of who these characters are. You know, you have the 4 brothers and Avery that are like hosting the game essentially. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. You follow the point of views of different people that are playing the game, and I think the writing style is very fast-paced. I think the riddles are very fun and very entertaining. I think the way that she can come up with these like clues and riddles and like little games that they have to do and solve is just so entertaining and fun. Like my little brain can't figure it out, but they can, and it's fun to watch them do it. The only thing is I just am not connected to any of these characters or the storyline anymore. I think it's fun to be back in the world because I loved the original trilogy and follow along with the riddles like I said, but the actual characters in here I think I'm just like disconnected from. I don't think I care about them too much. I think the storyline is fun. It also has a second book that's coming out because this one does leave off on a little bit of a cliffhanger, so I am excited to see how that like ends up wrapping up because I'm very curious. But not my favorite book, but it was fun, entertaining. I would recommend it if you want a fast-paced mystery. This is the one where I didn't know which genre it was, like YA mystery, also fiction. There's like subplots of romance happening between it. I feel like our characters aren't really delved deep into enough on an emotional level. Like we find out stuff about them and like why they're there, but I feel like we needed more emotional stuff about them for me to connect to any of them. I just had fun time reading it. Then I read Jackpot Summer by Alyssa Friedland. This one I was so excited about because it does take place on the Jersey Shore. We have 4 siblings that we're following. There's 2 boys, 2 girls. They're fully grown. You're kind of following their point of views of where they're at in life and like what struggles they're going through as adults. And then their mom passes away, so their summer home that they spend every 4th of July specifically, but they have so many core family memories there, is being sold. One day 3 out of 4 siblings buy a lottery ticket, the jackpot ticket, and they end up winning. And you kind of just follow these characters going from not a lot of money to so much money all of a sudden, and how it affects each one of them. You kind of see the fallouts of it, and these siblings in this family is kind of disconnected, so you kind of see how the money and so much affects them, but also the theme of how family is way more important than any jackpot lottery ticket winning. So I wouldn't say I connected to the characters in this one, so I gave it like a 3.5. It wasn't very fast-paced either, but as I was reading it, I did like seeing the scenery of the Jersey Shore, being an LBI, following like family connections and seeing where they were going to end up by the end of it. But I don't think this is my very favorite read, but it just reads like a normal general fiction. Sometimes it's a fun story, other times it's a bit boring, and I just felt like some characters were making very wrong decisions, but it makes sense for the story of where they have to end up and how it becomes full circle. But yeah, it was good. Then I read Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. This one is another mystery book. It's about this woman who 11 years ago goes running and she goes missing, and then like 10 days later this mom and her daughter also go missing. Now it's present day, it's 11 years later, and the daughter comes back home, and now everyone's like, literally what happened? Are these connected? It's a very huge mystery in the town as well. I ended up giving this one 3.5. I think this one's very fast-paced and exactly what you need in a mystery book. I think the way it was told through the point of views you get are so interesting because you're like, why are we getting it through this one? But also I kind of like it. The only thing is I didn't like the writing style of it. It was very choppy and very surface level, not very descriptive, and kind of just like straight up telling you things, which is totally fine. Like I said in the reading vlog when I read this book, that it's a mystery. I don't really need too much depth within like the characters and the details and stuff, but I wish we did get just a little bit more. I feel like the sentences were just really short and not very much going on. I did end up guessing a little bit of the ending, but this one really got me, and that's why I gave it a 3.5. I did enjoy the way that it wrapped up. I think just like getting to that point wasn't very thrilling for me. me personally. I think it was just we were finding things out through different point of views, and that was like the most interesting part, I think. But it was still a good book. I still would recommend this one if you want a mystery with like a plot twist and all this stuff. So I enjoyed it. I just don't think it'll be my favorite mystery. Then I read The Dixon Rule by L. Kennedy. This one comes after The Graham Effect. It's like interconnected standalones of going on in the same world as the Off-Campus series, just years in the future. This one is about the main female character from the first one's best friend and another player on the hockey team. They don't really get along. I think he just rubs her the wrong way because he kind of sleeps with and hangs out with a lot of her friends on the cheerleading team, and she's like the captain, and she lives in this apartment that her aunt gave to her. And then he ends up moving into the same apartment complex, which kind of stirs things up because she is just so annoyed that he's there. But she ends up doing some like petty things that was like a little bit annoying. I ended up giving this one 3 stars, which I just didn't expect to give it 3 stars. I thought I was gonna really enjoy this one more than the first one, but I feel like their banter with each other was just so lacking, which is so crazy to say because I feel like Elle Kennedy does a really good job with that, especially The Graham Effect. Like, I really enjoyed that one, but I feel like she was just so annoyed with him for a lot of the book that it just like took away from the banter and the tension and the chemistry. I just didn't really feel it between the two of them. I feel like it was way more lusty than anything. Even towards the end, when you get more emotional stuff about them and learn more about each character and see them connect more, I just still didn't feel it. I feel like they would have been better off just like friends at that point, friends with benefits maybe. I don't really know. I will say there was a little fun part in this book where they watch a show that's kind of similar to Love Island, and that honestly was my favorite part of this whole entire book. I just didn't love it as much as I thought. I thought that Shane was gonna give more golden retriever banter, like flirty energy, and he kind of just didn't do that for me. And I think that Diana was a little bit petty in the beginning that just like annoyed me a bit, and just, I don't know. It just didn't do what I thought it was gonna do, and I'm a little disappointed in that. Then I read One Star Romance by Laura Hankin. I actually started this I think in June and then soft DNF'd it because it was a little hard for me to get into. This one's definitely misleading because I don't think this is a romance. I think this is just a general like women's fiction novel. We have our main character who's an author, and she's going to her best friend's wedding, and she's walking down the aisle, and the guy she actually met a few months before, who is her best friend's soon-to-be husband's like best man, she finds out right before they go down the aisle that he left her a 1-star review on her debut novel. So that kind of just sends her down a huge spiral, and I think that is the main plot of this book. Her kind of losing her like ambition to do what she loves. It kind of like time jumps as well. It doesn't like take place in one time. It's like the wedding happens, and then we go like a year later, and then this happens, and that's where they see each other again, and then you get when they see each other again. But it's not like in a romantic way. It's just like she hates him. They're always like put together in a forced proximity situation, so there is some tension there, but they never really follow through with it. And then you're just like in our main character's head, just like what is even going on. One thing that I liked in the eyes of our main character is the way he makes her doubt herself, but in a way that also challenges her and makes her want to be better, even though it does like make her question herself. I think it does like push her to want to prove herself. There's also a huge friendship theme in here. Like I said, they're best friends were the ones that get married, and kind of the way that they know each other and why they're always forced to be around each other. And the friendship theme in here reminded me a lot of Firefly Lane, so if you like the theme of friendship, I think you would enjoy that aspect of this book. I also like the portrayal of you don't need to have everything figured out in your 20s. You don't need to know who you are, what you're doing, and the struggle of seeing everyone around you the same age like having a solid thing go on, like in relationships and jobs and stuff. I liked seeing that how you don't have to have everything figured out, especially in your 20s. You're still young and you're still able to grow and change. Like I said, it kind of spans years and years, and you kind of see them over like different times in their lives, which are kind of pivotal moments in their lives, and I do like that. But I just think I expected more romance in here, and you just don't really get that until the end. It's like a flip a switch. It's like Rob goes from this like arrogant character to all of a sudden romantic. I don't really know. I just didn't really love the romance in here. I think I liked more the general fiction themes, and I wish it was more marketed as that. I wouldn't go into here expecting a romance like I did. I think that's where I went wrong, and I just didn't really like Rob as a character until closer to the end when you get more explanations of it. I feel like without the communication, he just came off very arrogant, and I just didn't like that. But that's all I had to say on this one. Then I got The Arc of Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is her newest release, coming out in just a few days. Actually, I think when this is out, it's out. I don't really know when this is coming out, so it comes out September 4th. This is the second book after Wild Love in her newest series that she's doing. They're all interconnected, standalone, single father romances, so I'm just so excited for this whole series. This one is about West and Skylar. Skylar is a huge country singer, a huge A-list artist, and she's coming to Rose Hill to record and do her own thing at the recording studio of Ford's that's on the property, and Ford is the main character of Wild Love, the first book. She's kind of sick of her father and her manager controlling her, so that's why she's heading over here to get away from it and do her own thing. And then you have West, who lives on the property, and he is a father to 2 of the cutest children. They are just so adorable. I'm obsessed with them, and West as a father figure in this book is just like so understanding and communicative, and just was healing her father issues and also like mine and probably everyone else's. Like the way that he was such an incredible father was so nice to read, and also seeing it through Skylar's point of view, who doesn't have a good relationship with her father, and seeing how a father should and can act. It was just really nice to see that through her point of view and see her kind of heal through that a little bit. I think Wes is just very playful and patient and mature, and a lot of qualities that I really like reading about. I will say I think I like Ford in the romance in the first one just a little bit more. I do think that Wes and Skylar were just so sweet with each other, and I really liked their relationship, but I feel like the tension maybe was lacking. The chemistry and the tension I wish were just like a little bit heightened, because I know how Elsie can write banter, and their banter was really good and did make me giggle. I just want to just like a little bit, just a few percentage more. I ended up giving this one a 4-star. I really like seeing Skylar be surrounded by people that were truthful and honest and down to earth, and not just like surface level and using her for being a celebrity basically. And it was really nice to see when they got deeper on an emotional level, how they were more similar than you would expect them to be. So I did like their connection, and it was a really good sweet romance, and Elsie Silver knows how to write single dad tropes. And I'm really excited for the third one. I think this third one may be my favorite. You get a lot of hints of it in this book, and I think it's gonna eat. Of course it's gonna eat, but still, I'm really excited about that one. Then I read The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. The cover of this is probably one of my favorite covers of the whole year so far. It is stunning. The premise and the summary of this book is just so fun and such a fun twist on a regular romance. It's about our main character Delphi, who ends up passing away very suddenly and very like unexpectedly, and she ends up in the afterlife, and she's greeted by this like afterlife therapist type of girl, and she ends up meeting this guy in the afterlife and bumping into him, and they have this like really quick sudden tension and chemistry, and she's like, this is my one true love. So afterlife therapist sends her back to the real world, and she gives her kind of like the schedule and this time limit to go find that man, have him kiss you first, and you can stay on Earth. You can stay on Earth with your one true love. So now she's on a mission, and she has 10 days. There's a time crunch. There's like kind of like high stakes going on, and just made it so entertaining and fun. Kirsty Greenwood's writing is so entertaining, so fast paced, so funny, and also like you get emotional moments with our characters, but she was making me like laugh out loud. I love what was going on. I feel like the storyline went in such a different direction than I expected. I did pick up on it like really early on in the beginning, so I gave it 4 stars because like I just felt it was a little bit predictable, and once I caught on I was like, I know where this is going, and I wish I got more surprised, but that's like on me. I didn't like fully connect with our main characters, but going along with them was just so entertaining. Everything that they got themselves into and whatnot was just so fun. I'm like obsessed with her writing style. It was such an entertaining read, and also the romance in here, once it did pick up, was like, it was good. I was really enjoying it. Not only did it have the humor and the romance and entertainment value, but it also had like themes of making you want to live your life to your fullest. You know, if you had a second chance at life, like what would you do? Seeing how you were living your life and what you were doing day to day and what you would do instead if you got that second chance. And I just really liked that theme of it as well. I think it was such an interesting and fun way of including that into a rom-com-y type of novel. I think it was just so fun. And the last book that I finished this month, honestly, saving one of the best for last. I so unexpectedly absolutely ate up this book and just really enjoyed it, and that is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I haven't read one of their books in quite a while. I don't really know why, but this one was on my summer TBR, and I definitely wanted to finish it before the summer was over, because I honestly, just looking at this cover, like, you have to read this in the summertime. I started this with not many expectations. I just knew the summary of it, which is our 2 main characters got married for like a year or 2 in college, and then they go on their separate ways. He moves out, she goes back home, or no, I think she stays there. I don't really know, but she is like a struggling artist, and she's trying to pay off her dad's like medical bills and everything like that. And then West comes back into the picture. It's like, Anna, technically we are still married, and in order for me to get my trust of a lot of money, we need to stay married until we hit the 5 years, which is coming up in a few weeks or months or something like that. And you need to accompany me to my sister's wedding. I forget where they go, but like on an island basically, because his family is filthy rich, and Anna had literally no idea. She agrees to it. They have this like negotiation, this deal. She is one of the funniest characters I've ever read in a book, and I'm not even saying that lightly. Maybe it's like my humor in a book, or I just didn't expect her to be funny. I was laughing out loud and giggling at this girl because she is just so unserious in so many serious situations, and just the things that she would spit back or just think. I was just laughing. Just reading it and like reading her humor in my head, it just hits so hard, and I'm just like, I'm obsessed with her. I love Anna. I ended up giving this one a 4.25 stars. He allows her to take his card and buy things for the vacation, and she's just thrown into this whole world that she has never seen or been a part of before, and it definitely does remind me of Just Go With It. So if you like that movie, I think you would really enjoy this book. That's one of my favorite movies ever, and it was definitely giving that. This book just had so many things that I like. It had the fake dating, which is just so fun. It had rich people problems. It had tension and banter and humor. Like, they took the com and rom-com and like used it to their advantage. Like, it was a real deal rom-com. Like, I don't know if I didn't expect to love it so much, but I just had such a fun time reading it. Our 2 main characters' dynamic relationship is so unexpected. They could not be more opposite from each other, and I think that's what makes it more fun. Like, she is just from a whole different side of everything than him, but the way they end up connecting and seeing each other on an emotional level, it's like, oh, we get each other, and it's just, you don't expect it, and then you get thrown into the romance and then the drama, and then a lot blows up and happens, and it's just entertaining and fun fun. I would love to see this as a movie, even though I said it's just like, just go with it. I don't care. I would love to watch this one. I had such a fun time. I do wish we got a little bit more on an emotional level with Wes. I feel like we were getting there, and I feel like we could have gone a little bit more deeper, but other than that, I had such a fun time. Also, the only thing on this, which is really not a bad thing, the epilogue was so long. Like, there's a long epilogue in this book, but that really has nothing to do with it or my rating. I just needed to say that. I thoroughly enjoyed that book, and I think my expectations were just like not there, which is the best way to go into a book, and I should do that more often, but it was just so funny. And also their communication was so good, and Wes could just read Anna so well. Like, they don't need to say anything. They look at each other and he knows what's happening. Those are all the books that I read in the month of August. Let me know if you've read any of these books, any of your thoughts, your opinions, if you're gonna read any of these. I think I had a pretty good reading month. There's a small point in the month where I was just getting a bunch of 3-star reads, and I just really needed that good 4 or 5-star. And you know what? Love of My Afterlife and The Paradise Problem pulled through, and I really enjoyed them. But I think it was a good, solid reading month. So again, let me know if you've read any of these books. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you did, and I'll see you hopefully in the next one. Bye!